Okay, so we are here with Fatima Nkata, right? Is that how I pronounce your last name?
That's right.
Okay, and it's been a while, so I wanted to make sure. But with the Humanities 101 interview, and we're going to be talking about Fatima's wonderful both career and hopefully future career. And like to welcome you, Fatima, today.
Thank you for having me.
Wonderful. So we kind of start each interview, and you're kind of our inaugural interview here. We've talked to other people, but I wanted you to be the kind of first formal interview. And what I like to do is, you know that I'm a little strange in my methods. So I like to start each interview with each interviewee proving that they're human by answering a few questions. And again, this is based on the Turing test. And it's again, just kind of an interesting way to kind of get to know you and kind of figure out a little bit about who you are. So if you are ready, what is your most memorable event in your life and how's it impacted you today?
Most memorable event? Wow. There've been so many. If I were to pick one, I would say that, the decision to go back home to run for public office, and by home, I mean a little country in Southeast Africa, Malawi, said to be one of the poorest countries in the world, which I beg to differ, but that's what is out there. That decision to leave the comforts of everything that I have here and go back home to run for public office, I would say that's a pretty big moment for me. And it has impacted my life in so many great ways.
Excellent. Now, if you had to, and this one is a little less concrete, if you had to describe yourself only using shapes and colors, how would you describe yourself?
A tesseract. No boxes, no circles, no squares.
Okay. And yeah, and shapes or colors and it doesn't matter. So a tesseract. Okay. And any reason why?
It has a lot of dimensions to it. It's not simple. It's quite complex. So I would say that that's me.
Okay, excellent. When you think about the decades of your childhood, right? You know, the time that you grew up. How do you feel about that time, and what makes you feel that way?
I miss it. I miss that time. Life was a lot more simpler. I had no responsibilities, for one. Growing up is not what it's advertised to be. There's a lot that you are not prepared for. So I miss that time. I miss being around my family and even those that have passed. It was a good time. I had a really good childhood, I would say. So that's a time that I always look back at with fond memories.
Again, kind of keeping in this idea of history and in our personal experience, if you can think about in your own experience, what historical event changed you most and where were you when it happened?
Believe it or not, 9/11.
Okay.
I was somewhere in England. I was in Nottingham at work. At that time, mobile phones were not as popular as, well, they are right now. They were not as efficient as they are right now. My father was somewhere in Malawi, and we had a payphone at work. And a call came through on the payphone, and somebody said, Fatima, it's your father. I got on the phone and he was telling me to go home because they're bombing everything. So I got scared and we turned on the TV and watched the news. This is all the way somewhere in Nottingham, in England. And here's my father all the way in Africa telling me to go back home because of something that's happening in America. I never forget that day. I never forget watching everything that happened and just thinking that, how could human beings do this to other human beings? And that really got me on a path of thinking about what I myself can do different what I can do different that says, no, not all human beings are like this. We are not, this is not what we are about.
So which of these questions that I've asked you is the most difficult to answer for you, and why?
The most difficult one, I would say, was to find that first question that you asked, to pick just one moment that has shaped who I am. It's kind of hard, because I believe that all of the experiences that I've been through, all the moments that I've gone through have added up to me being who I am. So it's kind of hard to pick just one thing. I suppose context matters too.
Always.
Yeah. So that one was the one that I really, really had to think about. I loved the one about childhood, going back to my childhood. That's the kind of world that I want to live in. That's the kind of world I want my kids to live in,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So wonderful. I mean, that I couldn't have asked for a better segue. So you're talking about this this world that we live in, and you had mentioned, okay, that you're running for office in Malawi, and you had mentioned that it's purportedly a poor country. So what do you mean by that? Can you explain to us a little bit about Malawi? And because again, most people will not have heard of it, let alone know where to pick it out on a map. So Can you tell us a little bit?
So Malawi is a little country in southeastern Africa. How I like to explain it, especially to people here in Michigan, is, the pop star Madonna, right? Where she adopted her kids from. That's where I'm from.
Boom. They know immediately.
I guess that sort of tells them where it kind of is. And Western media and information that is out there pretty much states that we are one of the poorest countries in the world. Depending on what index you're using to make this statement, I would say that to a certain extent it is true. But coming from Malawi and having experienced a bit of both worlds in Malawi, and knowing the wealth of resources that we have and just the human capital that is there, I believe that we are so much more than the label that has been placed on us. We are not doing too well economically. I mean, coming out of the pandemic, as well as the Russia-Ukraine war, which has impacted us, things are not going so well. But I believe that there is so much more to the country than just being that country with, poor people.
Right. The like you said, the kind of Western stereotypes, the ideas, and even like you said, indices. Which indices do you use? Because I know that I've had interactions just even with my own nephew, and we were discussing one time, and he says, Africa is a really poor continent, and I said, that makes no sense considering most of the natural resources in the world are there. So what makes it poor? He said, well, they owe Europe money. And I said, why? And he was like, I don't know. And I was like, let's investigate, and it is, again, just one of those questions and one of those things that we assume, right? It's one of the.
And also, from what perspective are you making these statements? Poverty means totally something different out here than it does out there. Being wealthy, being rich means, and aside from the, obviously everybody wants to have money, but what do you consider as being rich or as being poor? For some people, it's family, a good life, and all of that. Others is a huge bank account. But depending on where you're standing and how you're looking at things, I say Malawi is not a poor country.
Now, in your experience, because you've lived, in many different areas in the world, right? Do you think that is kind of, is that our hang up here in the States? Is that kind of, or is that bigger?
I think it is. When I was going to school in Malawi, and to a certain extent also in England, the center of the world was not America. The center of the world was not America. Especially in Malawi, we would delve into so many topics about so many different countries. We would explore other countries before even, You know, before the first time I got on a plane, I knew so much about other countries. Whereas what I discovered when I came here, if it's not America centric, it's really not very important to teach. The country has to be at the center of everything, and then you move outwards. Whereas from where I come from my background, you look at the outside before, and then you look inwards, you know. So I would say that I wish there was a broader way of, you know, Americans learning what else is out there and just opening themselves up to other possible realities.
That's what we're trying to do. Yeah, I mean that's honestly part of the, you know, because you know that's been one of my, you know, big pushes. And that, you know, and I've been trying to do that in the classroom. And then I think, well, how can I, because this works. If we get enough people, we've seen it work. If we get enough people from different places sitting in a room and talking, eventually we figure stuff out.
Absolutely.
And,
yeah.
You know, this virtual room that we have, can be extremely powerful. And it's just exposure, because you'd mentioned something in it.
It is. I'm remembering something. I don't know if it was in one of your classes. We read this article about the body rituals of this group of people.
Yes, that was me.
That were really weird kind of people. I think that is a very good lesson for people to always go back to. I remember that so well. I tell it to everybody that I meet. I'm like, if you want to understand me, let's look at this scenario. What do you think about these people? You know, what do you think should happen to them? And the kind of responses that you get is funny, because at the end of the day, when you tell them that you're talking about you, they're like, oh, okay. Perspective just does matter.
Well, yeah, and that's the body rituals of the Nacirema. If you know, people who are listening want to check that out, we'll put that in the resources page of Humanities 101 so you can check it out. But it's all about perspective, because what we know is commonplace, when we look at it from a different perspective, right? Different normal, because there are so many different normals. And it is true that, yeah, you have to look outside of oneself, and you've got to realize that there's more than just your own nose. And you had mentioned, the effects of the Ukraine-Russian war, right? And so in this country, this is often discussed, right? In the States, it's often discussed that, you know, again, very American-centric view. What do we have to gain? Why are we there? Why did we send this? Why did we send that? So could you explain a little bit, when you mentioned that there's an effect in Malawi, what effect would the war in Russia and Ukraine have on a country like Malawi in Africa?
The easiest way for me to put this into perspective for a lot of people is the price of bread. Russia and Ukraine and wheat, biggest suppliers, exporters of wheat in the world, the two of them, especially to my country. We get a lot of our wheat from that side. There's a war. The wheat is not coming out. Price of bread for the common person on the ground goes up. Now, not many people eat bread in Malawi. You know, we're into your potatoes and things like that. But we feel this effect. And not just wheat and bread. When you think about oil, right now, my own sister, has been on a fuel queue for 2 days, waiting to fill up her car. Lucky enough, the petrol station is just 5 minutes away from her house, so she's able to have people bring her food, and you know, her husband will come, they'll swap, somebody else will come, they'll swap, but has been waiting to fill up her car for 2 days because we can't get fuel into the country. And I'm not saying that this is all because of just the Russia-Ukraine conflict, but it has contributed a lot. It has contributed a lot. It has disrupted the supply chain for my country. So, and that plus lack of political will for our current leaders as well to find other options, to find other ways, you know. But that's just an example of how an event that's happening very far away from my country can affect the common person on the ground. And when I say my sister's waiting to fill up her car, majority of the people in the country don't really own cars. There's people that do own cars, but the person in the rural area does not own a car. They depend on public transportation to get them to hospitals and to schools and stuff like that. Buses are not running, and they can't get to a hospital, you know. So things like that have a trickle-down effect. It might be very, very far from Malawi, but it does affect us.
And again, I'm not familiar with Malawi in particular, but I know when I was in Ghana, I was shocked when I noticed the gas price, and then I learned that it was per liter.
Uh-huh.
And that, and then when you started to do the math in your head, you were like, wait, whoa, how much do you pay per gallon?
Mm-hmm.
And you make how much per month?
And it's amazing that for countries like Ghana, they've got oil there.
Right, exactly.
It shouldn't be that expensive.
Right. But, you know, when we think, you know, again, just in the States, when people talk about the price of gas, you know, I know that's one of the things that I constantly will talk about is that we don't know what the real price is in this country because it is subsidized highly.
Absolutely.
And when you go to the pump, even if you're paying $8 a gallon overseas, someone is paying that per liter in a country with a quarter of the GDP, an eighth, a tenth, a 1/80th, right? And the average, I know, again, when I was in Ghana, my host father, this was in 99, my host father made $100 a month salary and then paid $5 a liter for gas.
And $100 a month is quite a lot right now. You know, the poverty rate is what? It's below $2 a day, right? Now, with the majority of the people, especially those in the rural areas and those that are doing that are not in the corporate world, making not more than maybe $50 a month. Now, imagine how that affects their lives and their quality of life and standard of life, you know?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now you discussed a little bit about political will and imagination, because, you know, kind of a lack of kind of imagination of looking for other solutions. And that's one of the things that I know we talk about a lot on Humanities 101, the idea of like creative imagination, thinking of new ways for old problems. So, you know, and I know that you are, again, running to be part of the country's leadership. So what are some of the new ways that you might, or some of the new thoughts or imaginative avenues that you would kind of like to explore?
The way I actually started on this whole political journey, I'm finally running for office and stuff like that. The philosophy that I've been living by since I got here was, don't forget where you're coming from and give back to the community that raised you. Now, compared to a lot of people in Malawi, I would say that I had a comfortable life. I had a pretty comfortable life. But where we lived in an area where my father's big house, was surrounded by people that were not in the same situation as we were. We were pretty much better off than a lot of people, but I lived amongst people that didn't have as much as I did. And we lived with them. These were my people. These are my people. Now, when I got here, after I graduated the first time, I started this foundation, so to speak. And it was basically about giving back to the community that raised me. We were talking about money just now. It's amazing what $50 can do for someone in that area. So I've been working towards empowering young people through sports. So I've been sponsoring soccer is a big deal in Africa. We call it football out there. So I'd been sponsoring some football leagues, soccer leagues in Malawi. It started off as a group of people approaching me and saying, "Oh, we have this tournament. We need a sponsor." And the sponsorship that we require is prize money for the teams. And then somebody would come and say, "Oh, we need footballs. You know, we don't have footballs." And somebody would say, "Oh, we need a soccer kit." So we decided to put all of this together and create an actual football league. So this football league has been running officially. This is the 4th year that we've been running it. I've been sponsoring it under, we call it Ana Amudzi. Now, Ana Amudzi is pretty much translates to children of the village kids. So I am one of the village kids. So I am giving back to my village. And when we started that, I started getting phone calls from the local community leaders. Oh, we need a bridge over here has washed away. Oh, this here needs to be fixed. Oh, the hospital doesn't have a waiting shelter. Could you help us with it? And I'm like, wait a minute. Okay. So from soccer, people are seeing the impact of what we can do together. I roped in a few people, some friends. They would throw in money. I was doing this out of pocket. I still do it out of pocket. Like I say, the dollar goes a long way out there. And then I got together all the community leaders, the local community leaders. These are the chiefs. I invited some chiefs over for a Christmas lunch. I wasn't there. I was there virtually. I thought there was going to be about 6 people coming. I ended up with 162 people showing up. It was all the local chiefs in the whole area with their, they came with a minister each. So when we sat down for this meal and they had this meal, and I was basically just telling them that if you see my team going out into your communities, please support them. We're just out here to help. We're not coming out here to exploit anybody. We are from here and we are giving back to the community that raised us. And then from there, they called me. They started making calls and saying, why don't you come and run for office? Why don't you come and run for office? And I'm like, but you do have a member of parliament representing you. And what came out was that when people go there, run for office, they're elected, they forget about the people that put them in office. They don't serve the people that put them in office. They get richer. They put money in their own pockets. They exploit things. There's very few that actually do the things that they have promised. And I suppose for them, the appeal is, well, she's out there. She's living a good life in America. Who would want to be that silly and live that life and come back here to all of these problems? So they know that I am not going back there to get myself rich or get a better life, or, I'm sort of jumping out of the pot into the fire.
Yeah, I mean, because it is. I mean, because you, and just so that everybody knows, I mean, you're an award-winning journalist. You have graduated multiple institutions. You have, academic articles published, in white papers. I mean, like, you are no slouch.
I will work
in another country, right? I mean, like, and I will say this as as a former teacher, you are an intimidating student to have in the classroom.
Oh my!
But it's good. I mean, I stepped up my game because I knew that you would do the reading. I knew that you were going to come in prepared for questions, and I mean, like,
oh wow!
But it's
and there I was. I thought I was just the annoying student.
No, that too. No, you weren't. You're one of those students that honestly, made me a better teacher because you were excited to be there. And you could see that, and it was contagious, right? And
thank you so much. That is so good to hear.
Oh my gosh, yeah. I mean, like, and when I see your name go through the, the ether every once in a while, I'll be like, yeah,
that's my student.
Yeah, I mean, like, she really is. So I mean, like, you kind of mentioned that it's just seemed like right place, right time. And the ability in order to get jobs done. I mean, that's kind of where it is. I mean, it's logistics. It's organizing people. It's having the imagination to go, okay, well, here's your problem. Here are some solutions, not just the solution, but here are a couple. Let's see which one fits, and I know that definitely your job is going to be large enough, right? When elected, that is going to be a big enough job, but I would be remiss if I didn't ask about all of, because, I think I made it well known that I'm a fan of Kwame Nkrumah and the idea of Pan-Africanism and stuff that that came out in the 60s, and we see this all throughout, and it's coming back again, right? We see this. And so with that whole, with your idea of going back, right, serving the people, but obviously that's going to be here in the background. What are your thoughts on that kind of neo Pan-African movement? Or is it a neo? It's not really neo. Gaddafi. We know America.
I draw a lot from the old Pan-Africanists. I draw a lot from them. There are lessons to be learned from them. Great lessons. I wouldn't say that I look at them as terribly horrible people and that ended up being, just terrible. I believe, like I said, I believe when you are going out there, when you are making that decision to serve your people, your heart is in it. The one problem that I have seen, though, is once people taste that little power, they want to stay on. They want to stay on forever. There's no succession plan. It's me and my kids. I must pass it on like a kingdom, That's a problem. So I do like the fact that people are waking up to speaking truth to power. I like that idea. I don't like the violence that goes with it in some cases, but I like the idea of being able to stand up and speak truth to power. Like for myself personally, I am not afraid to call out my president of my country. He is there to serve me. Of course, people get threats. You get the hand clappers coming out and having a go at you, pretty much tearing you down on social media, all sorts of things. But that will not stop me from speaking truth to power. When you speak truth to power, it's not like you want your leaders to fail. You want them to do better. But the way it's perceived is, oh, they are sabotaging us. Why is she speaking this way? She should have spoken to me behind closed doors, which is not something I am going to support. You are my leader. You are a public figure. You're serving the public. I will address you in public, if need be. Let's have these closed door meetings, but it will not stop me from speaking the truth. If I must, address something, I will say it out. So I do like what is going on. I just don't like the violence that is coming with it.
Yeah, and I agree. I think that there is a almost a cultural zeitgeist, like a movement across the world, right? Of people saying, no, we're not gonna play this behind closed doors game where you can sweep things under the rug again. And just as I said, this neo movement, and I said, well, it's not really a neo movement. It's been going on. It's just been, the lid's been put on it. Every time it starts smoking again, the lid is put on it and they go, don't look over there.
I think we're also seeing a lot of it now because we have access to our mobile phones. Everybody can access this in real time. So we are finally getting to see these things have been happening in other countries. Like you say, it has been happening, but it just wasn't put out there. Now we're seeing things in real time. We're seeing events happening in real time. And we are using those events to get our own leaders to get in line, see what happened to that guy over there in that country. If you don't fix up and look sharp, it's going to be you next.
It has a way of echoing, or if it doesn't repeat, it echoes, right? History will march. But what are your main priorities in your
my main priorities are education, entrepreneurship, and youth empowerment. An educated nation, you can pretty much do anything. You empower the youth. The country, majority of the population are still classified as youth. Now, when I say youth in Malawi, you could be 38 and still be looked at as a young person. So young people in their most productive stages of their life, very marginalized, make up majority of the population, but do not have a seat at the decision-making table. We are told that we are doing this for you, the leaders of tomorrow, the young people, but we don't have a seat at that table. We don't have a say. So for me is to ensure that when you are doing something for me, for the young people, let them be there and have a seat. Let them have a say because it is for them that you're doing it for. So youth empowerment is one of the main things. I wish when I was coming up, I wish these were the issues that were being encouraged. We've always been told you are the leaders of tomorrow. tomorrow has come and gone. We're still waiting for the same guys to get out of office so they can, give us a chance to implement the things that they have been teaching us. So that, and education, access to education, standards of education, the quality of education. I worry a lot. I've been to schools in Malawi. I've been to schools in England. I've been to schools here. And what we are able to achieve in Malawi with so little resources is quite amazing. I've seen a guy teaching a computer class using a chalkboard, not a single computer in the classroom, and he's teaching kids how to operate a computer. There's not a single computer there. Things like that we take for granted. So I want to invest in education, entrepreneurship. If you have money in your pockets, you're empowered. You're not waiting for handouts. You're not being used by any politician to do what they say for the chance of being given a handout. So if you have money in your pocket, I think your voice is a little stronger. So that's what I want to do. And the entrepreneurship is not just for young people. It's also for women, another marginalized group in the countries.
I mean, like you said, when you think about the idea of those three things together, and the idea of making something for the tomorrow that is right now,
mm-hmm.
Because I when you said that, all I could think of is, well, oh yeah, I guess those guys have been in power since before I was born, and when my
mm-hmm.
dad was in high school, and now he's an old man. And oh wait, they're old
he's
men.
Still
too.
there. He's still in that position. When am I going to get a chance?
But this isn't it though, because there's also post-interview questions. Now this is a rapid fire.
Okay? That's fine.
Okay. This is a rapid fire, and this is based upon some psychological principles of Bernard Pivot, and it's James Lipton used it in an American show called Inside the Actor's Studio. Mm-hmm. So I loved this as a kid, and I would hang on the words and
mm-hmm.
want to know what everybody's So what is your favorite word?
My favorite word?
Word, yeah.
Yes.
Ooh, okay. What's your least favorite word?
Impossible.
Okay. What turns you on creatively, spiritually, or emotionally?
An open mind.
What turns you off?
A closed mind.
Yeah. What sound or noise do you love?
I love the sound of a banging door.
All right.
That is so weird. But yes, I love the sound of a banging door. It means there's somebody in there.
Now, what about its converse? What sound or noise do you hate?
Silence.
What's your favorite curse word?
My favorite cuss word?
Yeah.
Fuck.
That's the mother of all, right? The best one. What profession other than your own would you like to attempt?
Sorry, what was that?
What profession other than the ones that you've done, would you like to attempt? What job or profession?
I've always dreamed of being a lawyer. I've got a lot of lawyer friends, and sometimes I pretend that I am a lawyer. So to argue for people who have no voice to argue for themselves, that kind of, I like that.
Sounds like something you might be doing right now. Now, what profession would you never like to attempt?
That's a tough one. I think something I don't think I would be I'd make a very good doctor, a medical doctor. I get too emotionally invested in people and making life decisions for people. That's too much of a responsibility in that context. So I think I'd be a wreck. I'd be bad at it.
Awesome. Okay, so if you were reincarnated as some other plant or animal, what would it be? not as a human, but if you were sent back as another living thing, what would it be?
To be reincarnated, what animal would I be?
Or plant? You could be flora or fauna.
Wow. Oh, wow. Definitely not a fish. A bird. A bird. To have a bird's eye view of the world around you, and just to be able to be out there and look down at everything and observe. I think that's beautiful.
Excellent.
A bird.
And the very last question: if heaven exists, what would you like to hear when you get to the pearly gates?
You did what you were supposed to do. Your account is closed. That's what I would like to hear. I wouldn't want to hear that I've left something undone, left something unsaid. I want to hear that I've fulfilled everything that I was created for.
That's amazing. That and Fatima, I really, I mean, couldn't end it any better. I really appreciate you coming out and talking to me today. Again, to everyone watching, keep your eye on Fatima, if you haven't already. But yes, we'll be watching and checking in, and please keep us updated, on everything. And anything that I can do.
Oh, absolutely. We're going to Malawi.
Okay. Hey,
we're going to Malawi.
I am there. All right.
Yeah.
So field trip, humanities101.org field trip. We're
Oh,
there.
yes.
Okay. All right. So, but thank you so much for joining us today. And I appreciate you more than you know. Like I said,
thank you so much for having me. And I feel like I was back in class, and this has been amazing for me.